Hello everyone. Today I'm preparing a Japanese style dinner and I have quite a few dishes planned. So come along with me and let's get it all done. First, I'm going to get some prep work done to make sure dinner comes together smoothly. I'm starting by making some buttermilk. I've added milk and vinegar to a large bowl and now I'm going to set it aside for about 10 to 15 minutes while it thickens and develops that tangy flavor. That buttermilk is going to be used to tenderize the calamari rings. Next, I'm working on the shrimp for sushi. I'm using frozen shrimp, so I'm adding them to a bowl with some water and letting them thaw while I continue the rest of the prep. I'm not done with seafood just yet. I'm also taking some salmon out of the freezer and letting it sit on the counter for a little. That makes it much easier to remove the skin and prep it for some salmon bites later. Next, I'm prepping the rice for sushi. I'm using sushi rice and washing it thoroughly until the water runs clear. I like to rinse it several times to remove the excess starch so it cooks up nice and clean. Once it's washed, I'm adding water. The ratio I use is 1 cup of water for 1 cup of rice. That's the perfect balance for sushi rice, especially since we'll be adding seasoning and other liquids after it's cooked. The buttermilk is ready and I am adding 2 bags of calamari rings to soak in it. I'll leave them there until I'm ready to fry. I don't usually cook fried food, but the kids are obsessed with calamari and honestly I like it too. So I figured today was a good day to make it for them. Now I'm getting the vegetables ready for some spring rolls. I have cabbage, carrots, and some diced bell pepper left over in the fridge. So I'll be using those today as well. I also have some dried mushrooms I picked up from Costco. So I'll add some boiled water to those and add them into the mix for extra flavor and texture. My kids really love Japanese food. They are always asking for sushi and ramen and trips to Japanese restaurants. So I've been trying to recreate some of those dishes at home. These are the things that I've made before, and my oldest especially loves spring rolls. I usually try to make everything from scratch, but for today I'm using store-bought spring roll wrappers. I found a version with simple, good ingredients, and if this turns out well, I might try making the wrappers from scratch next time. Right now I'm prepping the vegetables. I'm thinly shredding the cabbage and cleaning and shredding the carrots. The mushrooms look plump and fully rehydrated now. I'm going to squeeze out as much excess water as possible, then chop them into very, very small pieces so they blend well into the filling. Shiitake mushrooms would be also great here. They would add a deeper, more savory flavor that works really well in spring rolls. I'm not throwing away the mushroom soaking water. I will save it to use for something else. I might use it tomorrow with all the leftovers. I don't know if I will have any to make a broth or add extra flavor to another dish. Now it's time to start cooking. I have this pan and I'm heating some oil. Then I am adding the mushrooms first since they are a bit tough and need extra time to soften and cook through. After a couple of minutes, I add the cabbage followed by the carrots. I don't want them to overcook, just enough to soften slightly. They'll get more cooking time later when we fry everything together. It's already looking really good. I'm pretty sure these spring rolls are going to taste amazing. Now I have added some salt and giving everything a good mix. I'm also adding a bit of cornstarch. This helps absorb any extra moisture that gets released, keeping the filling nice and dry so it doesn't get soggy later. And I just realized I forgot to add the diced bell peppers, so I'm adding them now. I don't want to cook them too long. Actually, it's fine if they stay a little crunchy. I'm pretty sure the kids won't mind at all. I haven't started on the shrimp yet, so that's next. My plan is to fry the shrimp tempura, calamari, and spring rolls around the same time. These shrimp are for shrimp tempura sushi, so I like to keep them nice and straight. The best way to do that is to make a few small slits along the back and then gently press them flat before cooking. Then after that, I will move on to assembling the sushi. Right now, I'm just focusing on getting all the fried items prepped and ready to go. Next, I'm getting the tempura batter ready for the shrimp. I'm mixing together an egg, all-purpose flour, and cornstarch, then adding a few ice cubes. Keeping the batter very cold is one of the keys to achieving that light, airy, and extra crispy tempura coating. Once everything is mixed together, I'll place the batter in the refrigerator and keep it chilled until I'm ready to fry the shrimp. This helps maintain the cold temperature, which is essential for creating that signature crispy tempura texture. For the rice, I start by bringing the water to a boil. Once it's boiling, I lower the heat to a simmer, cover it with a lid, and let it cook for about 14 minutes. Now I'm preparing the seasoning for the salmon. I'm mixing together garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and salt to make a simple seasoning blend. I like to let it marinate for at least a few hours so the flavors really soak in. I'm using wild caught salmon today. It doesn't have quite as rich a taste as farm salmon, but I prefer wild caught for our diet. I like to season it a little more generously, so I'm getting that ready now. Salmon is easiest to skin when it's either slightly thawed or completely thawed. Today I'm removing the skin, then cutting the salmon into small cubes. Once that's done, I'll mix it with the seasoning I prepared earlier, along with a little oil, and let it marinate in the fridge for a few hours. There is definitely a transition if you are used to farmed salmon and are moving to wild caught salmon. In my opinion, a simple salt and pepper or a very mild seasoning is not quite enough when making that switch. Wild salmon benefits from stronger flavors, which is why this recipe works so well. I also sometimes make a poke bowl with hot sauce or sriracha. Another option is mixing mayo with sriracha to create a bang bang style salmon. These are all great recipes. I've moved the salmon to the fridge to marinate, and now I'm shifting over to shaping the spring rolls. I know it probably looks like I'm doing a dozen different things at once, but that's just how I like to cook. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm constantly multitasking and working on several components of a meal at the same time. For me, it keeps things moving and eliminates a lot of waiting around. There's always something to prep, cook, or organize, and it makes the whole process more efficient. The payoff comes later when dinner is ready on time or when I already have parts of tomorrow's meal prepared and waiting in the fridge. As you can see, this is how I'm shaping the spring rolls. You can also position the wrapper diagonally. Normally I do that also, but while I was filming I completely forgot and I just kept going. To seal the spring rolls, just brush a little water along the edges of the wrapper. The moisture helps the wrapper stick to itself and stay closed during cooking. Then roll everything up tightly, as tight as you can. Tuck in those sides as you go and shape it into a neat spring roll. Once I got a hang of it, I got a little greedy and I decided to see if I could roll two spring rolls at the same time. It worked out pretty well. Now I'm preparing the seasoning mix for the calamari rings. In a bowl, I'm combining flour, baking powder, salt, oregano, and black pepper. The flour creates a light coating, and the baking powder helps make the calamari crispier when fried. The oregano and black pepper add a simple seasoning that pairs really well with seafood. I am squeezing as much moisture as possible out of the squid before adding them to the seasoning mix. I started by squeezing the rings one at a time, but I had a lot to get through and it was taking forever. Then I tried doing a handful at once, which was a little faster, but it was still pretty time consuming. In the end, I just poured everything into a strainer and drained off the milk. That turned out to be much easier and a lot quicker. After mixing the squid with the seasoning, it didn't look like there was enough coating, so I ended up adding a little more flour. I hope that it will give the calamari a crispier finish when it's fried. Now it's finally time to fry everything. I've got a cast iron wok and I'm using coconut oil because I really like the flavor it adds. I'm starting with the shrimp. The batter has been chilling in the fridge, so it's nice and cold. I'll take each shrimp, dip it into the batter, and carefully lower it into the hot oil. I'm trying not to overcrowd the pan, but the kids just got back from swimming and they are already hungry, so I am adding a few more at a time than usual. I'm just trying to get out food as quickly as I can. Either way, this turned out really good, so I'm happy about that. Between each batch, I'm also taking a moment to remove any leftover bits of batter floating in the oil. I strain them out after every round because if they stay in, they'll burn and start to spoil the oil. I prefer to keep the oil clean. I finished frying the shrimp and now I'm moving on to the calamari. I'm just dropping in a handful at a time so they have enough space to cook properly and stay nice and crispy. At this point, I'm not even sure if I will have enough shrimp to make the sushi. But if they just want to eat it like this, I'm totally fine with that. They are really hungry. They've been in the pool for the last 2 hours. The kids have eaten and are finally satisfied. So now I'm going back to fry the spring rolls. I'm only going to fry half of them today. The rest I'll save for tomorrow and try them in the air fryer instead. I want to see how they turn out first. If the air fried version tastes just as good, I'll probably stick with that method going forward instead of deep frying them all. I got a little break, so I'm going to try making the sushi. That was the original plan for today anyway. I'm starting by slicing 2 avocados. To the rice, I'm adding rice vinegar. This one is already seasoned, so I don't need to add any extra sugar. I'll just mix it in and keep tasting until it feels balanced and ready to go. I'm using only a small amount of rice because I don't like my sushi to be too heavy. I'm spreading it into a very thin layer. Then I'll add the avocado and the shrimp. After that, I'll roll it up tightly to keep everything together. Make sure to use a very sharp knife when slicing the sushi. It also helps to wipe the blade clean every few cuts so the rice doesn't stick or the rolls won't slice cleanly. I'm only going to make 2 rolls today because I just want to sit down and eat with my kids. That's honestly my favorite time of the day. Also, about the salmon, I didn't get a chance to take a video of how I cooked the salmon because things got a little too busy in the kitchen. So I just took a few photos instead. It was really good also.